dietary lipids that get picked up by the lacteals, that's going to get destroyed. Okay? This would be the premise. You guys heard of the that weight loss thing they do with the cold laser?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Does anybody, can anybody think of the name of it? The that laser fat blasting thing.
I think it's just called cool sculpting.
Cool sculpting. The cool sculpting. Any of y'all check?
No.
I checked into it. Okay? I checked into it. And I kept thinking, well, what? Because, you know, I pick up the little pamphlet and I'm reading the pamphlet and, yeah, you know, like I said, I have enough knowledge to be dangerous. Okay? And so I'm sitting there and I'm reading and I'm thinking and I'm thinking. So that's not good for me. All right? And I'm like going, something about this doesn't make sense to me. Because what they tell us about this process is that the areas, because you know they only work on certain areas of the body. They don't work all over the body, okay? And the cool sculpting, what it's supposed to do is like freeze the fat cell and make it burst. Because, you know, you gotta love a fat cell, all right? All of the whole bunch of the other cells of the body, when they're done, they just die, okay? And like lysosomes come and eat it up. You can't kill a fat cell, okay? Plus, it'll reproduce. Can't stand these little fat cells, okay? And then, you know, like the only way to kind of get rid of them, the liposuction, okay, nobody doing that to me? No. I know the problems associated with that, okay? And so y'all, you know, I'm like looking at the cool sculpting, and then I'm going, well, they're trying to tell people that when they freeze these fat cells and these fat cells die, that they're going to get reabsorbed at the level of this lymph capillary. They're not getting that detailed. What they're telling people is it's going to get absorbed by the lymph system and you're simply going to urinate it out, is what they're telling people. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, nuh-uh. And so I asked, y'all know me, I'm going to ask. And I'm like, excuse me, but first of all, lymph fluid doesn't flow that fast. Second, anything it picks up is going to be so minor that I doubt, you know, it's going to be picking it up. So in reality, where is all that stuff that was in the fat cell going to return to? It's going to return to your circulatory system. I'll bet you in probably about another 10 years, we're going to see in those commercials on TV. Were you subject to cool sculpting and have you suffered severe plaque buildup in your arteries, blah, blah? They wouldn't talk to you. So one of our professors that we work with, he's a major professor over at VCU and the cardiology research and all that sort of stuff. So I go to him and I'm just like, you know, I just got a problem with this. Can you explain this to me? And I told him what my theory was. And he goes, you are 100% correct. And he said, that is not what's happening. I said, I do. So, you know, like I said, I tend to, when I overthink, you know, and this is not a good thing. So this right here is hopefully, it's not going to be picking up tons of those little fat cells because the fat cells are really needed to go back to our cells that we have because the cells use them to make membranes. And if you think about all the organelles of a cell, that's a lot of lipids that are needed. So, but whatever can't get picked up, the little lacteals will pick it up and get it out of the system. In this system, all right, that lymph, like I kept trying to point out, the system begins at my cellular level, this extracellular fluid. So it's actually opposite of the circulatory system. So what we're going to find, we're going to have these, what they call lymph capillaries. And these lymph capillaries have one-way flow. So they're little valves that open up, okay? What's going to happen? Any of the fluid gets to move into these vessels. It is going to be a clear, colorless fluid, very similar to what we see for blood plasma because it's picking stuff up. All right, and it's picking stuff up at that extracellular, at that tissue level. So one of the things that'll happen, we're going to get into our lymph capillaries. Now, once the fluid enters the capillary, it is called lymph. Okay, it's no longer referred to as just fluid. It is referred to as being lymph. So the lymph begins to make its way into bigger vessels, and those vessels have along the route the lymph nodes. So in the lymph node is where we find a huge number of our lymphocytes. A lot of the T cells, a lot of the B cells that are going to be present. We can also find the other immune cells. Do you guys remember macrophages? Okay, macrophages, like their name implies, phage means to eat, okay? They can just simply be sitting there in the lymph node on one of the little reticular seats, okay? They can be sitting there and the fluid will come by. No, that's okay. Fluid will come by. Yeah, let the next one get it. And eat it. Basically draw it in and use its lysosomes to kill the product. Hopefully that took care of it. Nothing else is needed. We can find maybe hormones. Yes, bacteria could be in those lymph nodes, viruses could be in there, cellular debris, and cancer cells. This is what happens when they talk about, well, my cancer metastasized to the lymph nodes. Because if I'm at this tissue level where the cells are, it's a cell that has gone rogue that has created cancer. And if that cell gets too built up in everything and it makes it into the lymph vessel and travels, it's now in the lymph. Problem is, once that cancer cell makes it into the lymph, it's very difficult to stop that cancer from metastasizing to other organs. Sometimes, if it's caught in time, they can go in and they can remove those lymph nodes, which will happen a lot to women with breast cancer because of the areas where lymph nodes are located. All right, throughout the body, these lymph nodes are found very concentrated in areas of the body. Our lymph vessels are going to also be known as lymphatics, i.e. the lymphatic system. So we begin as the capillaries, we go into vessels, and just like we saw with the blood vessels, we're going to see that we go from small to medium to larger until we get to the very largest, which will empty into the vein that it's going to go into. So, as we start at the tissue level and we make our pathway, we go from small to larger to larger to larger. The route of the flow. We start at the lymphatic capillary. It goes to a collecting vessel. The vessels in our body, we have a total of what we call 6 lymphatic trunks. So these vessels, in some way, are going to make it to one of these trunks. The trunks make their way to our 2 collecting ducts, one on the left side of the body, one on the right, and they empty into my subclavian vein, which makes its way to the right side of the heart. That's our route for this flow, this lymph flow. So we're creating a continual recycling in the body. We are recycling blood to tissue fluid to lymph, which goes back to the blood. The hope is that as it returns to the blood, as that lymph empties back into the subclavian vein, makes its way to the right side of the heart, by the time it gets there, it is super cleansed. Because that's all it is fluid. It's not blood. It's fluid that will become a part of the blood. In the hope that it's super cleansed, makes its way to the pulmonary circuit, makes its way to the left side of the heart, and then goes systemic. Meaning, leaving the left side of the heart to go to the systems of the body. Hopefully, keeping the body healthy. Because it's hopefully super cleansed. No bacteria, no viruses, no debris, no cancer cells, no nothing. Isn't that pretty cool? Yeah. But this lymph fluid. So the trunks. Now remember, I mentioned they empty into the veins, subclavian. One for the left, one for the right side of the body. So you would actually be thinking straight down through the middle, right? Left, right. Not going to be that easy, all right? But it's really cool the way it divides up left and right. Well, what do you notice about the concentration of the lymph nodes?
They're more in like the abdominal region and near the pelvis and stuff.
They are highly concentrated throughout the trunk of the body. Why? This is where all my organs are. I want to keep the blood flow to these organs very super cleansed. So, those trunks, now remember, we start at very small, at the capillaries, and make our way into vessels, okay? And those, along their pathway, go into these nodes. They get to pass through.